Please don't call the police. The whisper came from a boy, whose ribs pushed through a torn shirt. His trembling hands clutching a half-eaten burger, stolen from an outdoor table at 13 years old. Ethan Walker weighed 71 pounds, 37 pounds below what doctors call survivor weight. For 23 months, his foster mother had collected $3,892 every month while feeding him expired dog food mixed with water. But what the Iron Wolves Motorcycle Club discovered in her basement that night would mobilize 189 bikers from 4 states and expose a trafficking network that had made 47 children disappear. Subscribe now and watch until the end. Comment your city below. I want to see how far this story travels. The burger was still warm when the boy grabbed it. Marcus Ghost Sullivan had looked away for exactly 4 seconds, just long enough to check his phone to see if any of his brothers had responded to his location ping. When he looked back, his plate was empty and a skeletal figure was sprinting toward the dumpsters behind the roadside diner. Marcus didn't yell, didn't curse. He simply stood up from the picnic table, leaving his coffee behind, and walked toward the dumpsters with the same measured pace he'd used on night patrols in Fallujah 15 years ago. He found the boy crouched behind a rusted green container, shoving the burger into his mouth, so fast he was choking on it. Tears streamed down hollow cheeks. His whole body shook like a wounded animal. "Hey," Marcus said quietly. The boy's head snapped up. His eyes God. Those eyes, they were ancient, old in a way that no 13-year-old's eyes should ever be. "Please don't call the police." The words came out garbled, muffled by food and fear. The boy swallowed hard, wincing like it hurt, and tried again. "Please don't call the police. I'll work it off. I can clean. I can carry things. Please." Marcus felt something crack inside his chest. He'd heard begging before. He'd heard men beg in combat zones. He'd heard his own son beg the paramedics not to let him die after the drunk driver ran that red light 8 years ago. But this was different. This was a child who'd given up on being saved and was simply trying to negotiate his punishment. "I'm not calling anyone," Marcus said. He lowered himself slowly to one knee, making himself smaller, less threatening. "What's your name?" The boy's eyes darted left, right, calculating escape routes. "Why do you want to know?" "Because I just watched you inhale my dinner in about 6 seconds, and I'm curious whether I should order you another one or take you to a hospital." "I'm fine, kid. I've seen starving people before." "You're not fine." The boy flinched. Actually flinched like Marcus had raised a hand to hit him. The reaction was so automatic, so deeply ingrained that Marcus had to close his eyes for a moment. "My name's Ethan," the boy finally whispered. "Ethan Walker." "Okay, Ethan. I'm Marcus. People call me Ghost." He gestured towards the diner. "You want to sit down? I'll buy you an actual meal. Something you don't have to steal." "Why? Why would you do that?" Ethan's voice cracked. "Nobody does things for free." "What do you want?" Marcus felt his jaw tighten. Those words, that suspicion. This wasn't learned from watching movies or reading books. This was survival knowledge earned through experience no child should ever have. "I don't want anything," Marcus said carefully. "I had a son. He died 8 years ago. He was about your age. And I think if he was out here starving, I'd want someone to buy him a burger." Ethan stared at him for a long moment. Then slowly, he nodded. They sat at the same picnic table where Marcus had been eating alone. He ordered everything on the menu: burger, fries, onion rings, a chocolate shake, a slice of pie. Ethan ate like he was afraid the food would disappear, cramming fries into his mouth 3 at a time, barely chewing before swallowing. "Slow down," Marcus said gently. "It's not going anywhere. You don't know that." "Yeah, I do, because I bought it, and it's yours." Ethan paused a fry halfway to his mouth. Something shifted in his expression, a crack in the armor, just for a second. "How long since you've eaten?" Marcus asked. "What day is it?" "Saturday." "Then Wednesday, I think. Miss Patricia gave us crackers on Wednesday." "Miss Patricia." Ethan's face went blank. The crack sealed shut instantly like a door slamming closed. "Nobody," Forget I said anything. Ethan, I should go. The boy started to stand. Thank you for the food. I'll pay you back. I can work. I'm strong even if I don't look like it. Sit down. Marcus didn't raise his voice. Didn't need to. Something in his tone made Ethan freeze. Please, Marcus added, softening. Just sit down. Finish eating. Nobody's going to hurt you here. Ethan's eyes filled with tears. He blinked them back furiously, angrily, like crying was a weakness he couldn't afford. You don't know that, he whispered. You don't know anything. Then tell me. The story came out in fragments, bits and pieces scattered like broken glass. Ethan dropping them reluctantly, flinching every time he revealed too much, stopping and starting like a car with a bad engine. Miss Patricia Dawkins, the Forster home on rural Route 7, 23 months since Ethan had been placed there after his mother died of cancer, and his father's whereabouts remained unknown. There are 47 of us, Ethan said, his voice barely audible. 4 houses. Miss Patricia runs all of them. Marcus did the math in his head. 47 kids. Standard foster care payments averaged around $3,500 per child. That was over $160,000 a month. What does she spend the money on? He asked. Ethan laughed, a bitter hollow sound that didn't belong coming from a child. Not us. What do you eat? Whatever she gives us. Sometimes rice, sometimes bread. Ethan made a face. Green moldy bread. She says we're being dramatic. Says kids in other countries have it worse. Says we should be grateful she keeps us at all. Marcus' hands curled into fists under the table. He forced them to relax. Ethan, when's the last time you saw a doctor? The boy looked at him blankly. A doctor? Yeah, for a checkup. Shots? Anything? I don't remember. Before Miss Patricia. Before Mom died. 23 months without medical care for a growing child. 23 months of starvation rations and moldy bread. And whatever abuse had taught this boy to flinch when adults moved too quickly. Does she hit you? Marcus asked quietly. Ethan went very still. She has a paddle. The words were almost inaudible, with holes drilled in it, so it swings faster. But that's not the bad part. Marcus's blood ran cold. What's the bad part? Ethan's hands started shaking. He put down the fry he was holding like he couldn't eat anymore. The basement, he whispered. She calls it reflection time. When we break rules, she puts us down there. No food, no water, no bathroom, just dark. How long depends. Longest I did was 4 days. Marcus stopped breathing. 4 days locked in a basement with no food, no water, no light at 13 years old. And Ethan was saying it like it was normal, like it was just the way things were. How many kids has she put down there? Everyone. At least once. Ethan's voice cracked. But some don't come back up. What do you mean they don't come back up? Ethan's whole body was trembling now. He wrapped his arms around himself, rocking slightly. There was this boy, Lucas. He was 10. He went down to the basement and... Ethan stopped, swallowed hard. Miss Patricia said his heart was bad, said he died of natural causes. But Marcus, he was fine. He was healthy. He was my friend. And 3 days after she put him down there, he was dead. Marcus felt like he was going to be sick. When was this? 2 years ago. March. Were there others? Ethan nodded a tiny, terrified movement. 3 that I know of. But I've only been there 23 months. The older kids say there were more before. The sun was starting to set. Marcus had been sitting at this picnic table for 2 hours, listening to horrors that made his combat experiences look tame. His coffee had gone cold. His hands hadn't stopped shaking since Ethan mentioned the basement. Why are you telling me this? He asked. Ethan looked at him with those ancient eyes. Because you asked. Nobody asks. Teachers don't ask. Social workers don't ask. Everyone looks at us and sees foster kids. Problem kids. Liars. His voice turned bitter. Miss Patricia says nobody believes foster kids because we're damaged. She says we could scream all we want and nobody would care. She's wrong. Is she? Ethan's jaw tightened. I told my caseworker once 8 months ago. Said I was hungry. Said we weren't getting enough food. You know what happened? Marcus shook his head. She told Miss Patricia. and Miss Patricia put me in the basement for 6 days. Said I needed to learn about gratitude. Ethan's voice broke. I almost died down there, Marcus. I could feel myself slipping away. And when she finally let me out, she told me if I ever said anything again, she'd make sure I never came back up. Who's your caseworker? David Dawkins, Miss Patricia's nephew. He handles all of us. Marcus sat back, a county official overseeing his own aunt's foster homes. No wonder reports disappeared. No wonder nothing ever changed. The corruption went all the way to the top. Ethan, I need to ask you something important. The boy tensed. Is there anyone in that basement right now? The silence that followed was the loudest thing Marcus had ever heard. Her name is Maha. The words came out choked, broken. She's 9. She's been down there for 4 days, because she cried during dinner. She cried because she was hungry. And Miss Patricia said crying wastes energy that could be used for work. So she needed to go reflect on her selfishness. Marcus was already reaching for his phone. She stopped screaming yesterday. Ethan continued, tears streaming down his face now. I put my ear to the basement door and I couldn't hear anything. Not crying, not talking, nothing. And I wanted to help her. I wanted to break down the door and save her. But I'm so weak. I'm so tired. I can barely walk. So I ran. And I found this diner. And I stole your stupid burger. Because I thought maybe if I ate something, I'd be strong enough to go back and, Ethan, Marcus gripped the boy's shoulder gently. Look at me. Ethan looked up, devastated. You did the right thing. You found someone who can help. And I'm going to help right now. How? Miss Patricia has everyone. The police chief goes to her church. The mayor's wife is her friend. She's on the county foster care board. She's never dealt with people like me. Marcus made the call. 1 ring, 2. Then a voice like gravel scraping concrete. Ghost, you're supposed to be on that memorial ride. Everything okay? No. Marcus looked at Ethan, who was watching him with desperate hope. I need everyone. Everyone you can get within 500 miles right now. A pause. Talk to me. Marcus told him. All of it. The starving children. The basement. The dead boy named Lucas. The 9-year-old girl who had stopped screaming. When he finished, the silence on the other end of the line lasted exactly 3 seconds. Where are you? Rusty's Diner. Rural Route 7. Cedar Falls, Wyoming. Stay there. Don't move. Don't call anyone else. I'm mobilizing Montana, Colorado, Nebraska. We'll have 189 brothers there by midnight. Can you keep the boy safe until then? Marcus looked at Ethan. 71 pounds of skin and bones and trauma eating cold fries like they might be his last meal. Yeah, Marcus said. I can keep him safe. Then that's your only job right now. We're coming. The line went dead. Marcus put his phone down and turned back to Ethan. The boy was staring at him with an expression Marcus couldn't read. Who are you talking to? Family. You have family now. 217 brothers. And they're all about to make Miss Patricia Dawkins very, very sorry. An hour later, Ethan said something that stopped Marcus cold. They were still at the diner. Marcus had ordered more food, convinced Ethan to drink some water slowly, and was trying to keep the boy calm while waiting for his brothers to arrive. There's something else, Ethan said quietly. I have a recording. Marcus went very still. What kind of recording? Ethan pulled a cracked iPhone from his pocket. Old, battered screen. Splintered, but still functional. I found this in Miss Patricia's drawer 6 months ago. She never uses it, never checks it. So I started keeping it just in case. His hands were trembling. 3 weeks ago, I was hiding in the closet when she had a meeting with some people and other foster parents from different counties. They were talking about, he couldn't finish, about what? Money, kids, how to make them disappear without anyone asking questions. Ethan's voice dropped to a whisper. She called it aging out. Said some kids are worth more if they never reach 18. Said there are people who pay a lot of money for children who don't exist on paper anymore. Marcus felt ice spread through his veins. Ethan, are you saying the kids who go to the basement and don't come back? Ethan's eyes were hollow. I don't think they all died. The recording played for 11 minutes. Marcus listened with his jaw locked so tight he thought his teeth might crack. Patricia Dawkins's voice came through clear, cheerful, businesslike, discussing children like they were inventory. The younger ones are worth more, obviously, but you can't move too many at once. People notice. Better to space it out. 1 or 2 a year tops. What about paperwork? David handles that. Death certificates are easy when you know the right coroner. And runaways, nobody looks twice at a runaway foster kid. They assume drug streets, the usual. By the time anyone asks questions, the kid's 3 states away. How much are we talking? Depends on the beer. Young, healthy, compliant 50,000, sometimes more. Marcus stopped the recording. Ethan was crying silently, tears dripping onto the table. How many? Marcus asked, his voice barely controlled. I don't know. Maybe 10, maybe more. The older kids whisper about it, but nobody knows for sure. We're all too scared to count. Marcus stood up abruptly, walked 3 steps away, and pressed his hands against his face. He breathed deep, once, twice, let the red tide of rage ebb back just enough that he could think clearly. This wasn't just abuse. This wasn't just embezzlement. This was trafficking. Children were being sold, and the system designed to protect them was complicit in their sale. His phone buzzed. A text from Prophet. 67 brothers already en route. 8 at 11 p.m. FB. Eye contact notified. Hold your position. Marcus typed back. It's worse than we thought. She's selling them. 3 dots appeared, disappeared. Then Prophet's response. Then we burn it all down. Legal, clean, complete. Every single person involved. At 10:30 p.m. The first motorcycles arrived. 27 bikes from the Colorado chapter rolling into the diner parking lot in formation. Engines died almost in unison. Men in leather vests stepped off their bikes and walked toward Marcus without a word. Tank, -1'5", 300 pounds. A former defensive lineman who'd found the club after a career-ending injury, reached Marcus first. Where's the kid? Marcus nodded toward the diner, where Ethan was visible through the window. Still sitting at their table. 71 pounds. Tank said quietly, looking at the boy. Jesus Christ, it gets worse. How can it get worse? Marcus showed him the phone, played 30 seconds of the recording. Tank's face went from shock to something colder, something dangerous. How many others know? Prophet. He's bringing everyone. Good. Tank cracked his knuckles. How do you want to handle this? By the book. Evidence collection. Witness statements. Federal involvement. These people walk free if we do anything that gives them a loophole. And the kids, there might be one dying in a basement right now. A 9-year-old girl. 4 days without food or water. Tank closed his eyes. When he opened them, they were wet. Then we move tonight. We wait for Prophet. We need everyone coordinated. If she has connections to other foster homes, other operators, we have to hit them all at once. By 11:15 p.m., the parking lot was full. 108 motorcycles, more coming every minute. Men from 4 states dropping everything: jobs, family, sleep, because a 13-year-old boy had stolen a burger and whispered the words that changed everything. Prophet arrived at 11-40-7. Harold Stevenson, 63 years old, white beard, reading glasses, looked more like a retired accountant than the president of a motorcycle club, but his eyes told a different story. Those eyes had seen things, done things, and right now they were focused entirely on the diner window where Ethan sat. That's him. Marcus nodded. He's brave talking like this. Most kids would be too scared. He's terrified. But he's more scared of what happens if he stays quiet. Prophet was silent for a moment. My granddaughter is 9. Same age as that girl in the basement. I know. If we're too late, then we make sure it never happens again. Ever. To anyone. Prophet nodded slowly. Then he turned to face the assembled brothers. 189 men standing in the cold Wyoming night waiting for orders. Listen up, Prophet said, his voice carrying without shouting. In approximately 6 hours, we're going to dismantle a child trafficking operation that's been running for at least 7 years under the protection of corrupt officials. We're going to do it legally, carefully, and completely. No one walks. No evidence gets lost. No loopholes." He paused. "There are 47 children in 4 houses. Most of them have never known what it feels like to be safe. Tonight we change that. Tonight they meet their new family." A murmur ran through the crowd, not of dissent, of agreement, of commitment. But first, Prophet's voice hardened. "There's a 9-year-old girl who's been locked in a basement for 4 days. She may already be dead. If she's not, she's dying. We're not waiting until morning to find out." He looked at Marcus. "Ghost, you and Tank take a team, 10 men. Get to the main house. Get that girl out. Document everything. We'll coordinate with the FBI for the full operation. That child cannot wait another hour." Marcus nodded. "And the boy, he stays here with me, protected. When this is over, he's going to testify against every single person who hurt him. And I'm going to personally guarantee that no one touches him ever again." Ethan didn't want Marcus to go. "What if she finds out?" The boy whispered, grabbing Marcus's sleeve. "What if she runs? What if she hurts the others before you get there? What if..." "Ethan," Marcus crouched down to eye level. "I need you to trust me. Can you do that?" "I don't trust anyone. I know. But I'm asking you to try. Just this once." Ethan's grip on his sleeve tightened. Then slowly he let go. "You'll come back, I promise. People always break promises." Marcus reached into his pocket and pulled out a silver chain. A St. Christopher medal that had belonged to his son. He'd worn it every day for 8 years, never taken it off. He placed it in Ethan's palm. "Hold on to this for me. I'll need it back." "So yeah, I'm coming back." Ethan stared at the metal, then back at Marcus. Something shifted in his expression. Not trust exactly, but something close to it. Something like hope. "Okay," Ethan whispered. "Okay." Double quotes. 11 motorcycles rolled out at 12:03 a.m. Marcus led, Tank beside him, 9 brothers behind. They rode without headlights for the last mile, engines barely above idle. Navigating by moonlight, the house on rural Route 7 sat at the end of a gravel driveway surrounded by empty fields. No neighbors, no witnesses. The perfect place to make children disappear. The lights were off. The building looked dead, but somewhere beneath it, a 9-year-old girl was either dying or already gone. Marcus killed his engine. The others followed. In the silence that followed, he heard something faint, barely there. A sound coming from below the house. Not crying, not screaming, tapping, weak, irregular tapping, like someone hitting a wall with the last of their strength. Maya was still alive. For now. The tapping stopped. Marcus froze, his hand on the basement door, his heart hammering against his ribs. For 3 agonizing seconds, there was nothing, just silence, just the cold Wyoming night pressing down on them like a weight. Then it came again, weaker this time, slower. Tap, tap, tap. "She's alive." Tank breathed beside him. "Go now." Marcus pulled the door. Lock. He stepped back, and Tank stepped forward. 300 pounds of muscle and fury slamming into the wood. The frame splintered. The door crashed inward. A staircase descended into absolute darkness. The smell hit Marcus first. Urine, feces, something else underneath. Something metallic. Fear. 23 months of children's fear, soaked into the concrete walls. He pulled out his flashlight and descended. "Maya." His voice echoed off the walls. "Maya, can you hear me? My name is Marcus. I'm here to help you." Silence. Then from the far corner, a sound that broke him. A whimper, small, terrified. The sound of a child who had given up hope so completely that the possibility of rescue was more frightening than the darkness itself. Marcus swept his flashlight across the basement. Bare concrete. A single drain in the center of the floor. No bed. No blankets. No toilet. Just a small figure curled in the corner. Arms wrapped around her knees. Face buried. Rocking back and forth. "Maya." Marcus crouched down, keeping his distance. making himself small. "I'm not going to hurt you, I promise. Ethan sent me." The rocking stopped. Ethan. The voice was a rasp, barely human. 4 days without water had destroyed it. "Yeah, Ethan, he's safe now. And I'm going to make you safe too." Maya lifted her head. Even in the dim light, Marcus could see the devastation. Cracked lips, sunken eyes, cheekbones jutting out like knives beneath paper-thin skin. She was 9 years old, and she looked like a ghost. "Is she dead?" Maya whispered. "Miss Patricia, is she dead?" "Not yet." "Then she come back." "She always comes back. She put me back down here." "No." Marcus moved closer slowly, carefully, like approaching a wounded animal. "She will never touch you again. Do you understand me?" "Never." "I won't let her." Maya stared at him. Her eyes were ancient, older than Ethan's, older than anyone's eyes should ever be. "That's what the last man said," she whispered. "The one who came to inspect us. He said we'd be safe. And then he left and Miss Patricia put 3 of us down here for telling him things." Marcus felt his chest constrict. Who was he? The inspector. "I don't know his name. He had a badge. He wrote things on a clipboard. And then Miss Patricia gave him an envelope, and he smiled and he left." And that night, Maya's voice broke. That night, she used a paddle, until we couldn't walk. Tank's voice came from the top of the stairs. "Ghost, we got company." Lights just came on in the main house. "Get her out," Marcus said to the brother beside him. Gently. "She can barely move." "What about you?" "I'm going to have a conversation with Miss Patricia." Maya grabbed his sleeve with fingers that felt like bird bones. "Don't let her talk. She's good at talking. She makes everyone believe her. Even when they see us, even when we're bleeding. She explains it away. And people believe her because she smiles, and she prays, and she... I don't believe liars." Marcus gently removed her hand. "And I don't care how well she smiles." He took the stairs 2 at a time. Patricia Dawkins stood on her front porch in her floral bathrobe, her hair in curlers, a cup of tea steaming in her hands. She looked like someone's grandmother. She looked like a woman who baked cookies and went to church and pinched children's cheeks with affection. She was smiling. "Can I help you, gentlemen? It's quite late. Is there an emergency?" Tank stepped forward. "Ma'am, we found Maya," Marcus interrupted. "In your basement. 4 days without food or water. She weighs about 40 pounds. She can barely speak." Patricia's smile didn't waver, not even for a second. "Oh, Maya, yes. She has some behavioral issues. We've been working with her on..." "Stop." The word came out cold, flat, dangerous. Patricia blinked. The smile flickered just for a moment, just enough for Marcus to see what was underneath. Calculation, assessment, the mind of a predator evaluating a threat. "I'm sorry. I said stop. Don't talk. Don't explain. Don't spin." Marcus stepped closer. "I've got 47 kids who are going to tell me exactly what you did to them. I've got financial records that show you collected nearly $2 million that should have fed and clothed them. I've got a recording of you discussing how to sell children to the highest bidder." The smile vanished. "I don't know what you think you..." "I said don't talk." Marcus pulled out his phone. "Special Agent Rachel Torres of the FBI, in about 15 minutes out. She's been trying to build a case against operations like yours for 6 years. You're going to make her career, and you're going to spend the rest of your life in a federal prison." For the first time, Patricia's mask cracked completely. Her face contorted, not with fear, with rage. "You have no idea what you're dealing with," she hissed. "Do you know who my nephew is? Do you know how many people in this county owe me favors? I'll have you arrested for trespassing. I'll have you charged with kidnapping. You'll shut up and put your hands where I can see them." The voice came from behind Marcus. A woman's voice, calm, professional, absolutely authoritative. Rachel Torres stepped into the porch light, FBI badge in one hand, weapon in the other. Two more agents flanked her. "Patricia and Dawkins," Torres said. "You're under arrest for child abuse, child endangerment, human trafficking, fraud, and conspiracy. You have the right to remain silent. I strongly suggest you use it, Patricia screamed. Not words, just raw animal fury. She lunged at Torres, teacup flying, fingernails aimed at the agent's face. One of the other agents caught her, spun her around, forced her to her knees. The handcuffs clicked shut with a sound like a period at the end of a sentence. My nephew will hear about this, Patricia shrieked. David will have all of you fired. You can't do this. Those children are mine. The state gave them to me. Torres crouched down to Patricia's eye level. Your nephew was arrested 20 minutes ago, along with the county coroner, who falsified death certificates for you and the police sergeant who buried complaints, and your husband, who we found trying to destroy hard drives at your second property. She smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Your network is done, Mrs. Dawkins. Every single piece of it. Patricia went pale. The screaming stopped. For the first time, Marcus saw fear in her eyes. Real fear. How many children? Patricia whispered. How many did you find? Is that a confession? Torres asked. Are you asking because you've lost count? Patricia's mouth opened, closed, opened again. I want my lawyer. You'll get one after we finish documenting every single child you've tortured, starved, and sold over the past 7 years. Torres stood up. Take her. The agents hauled Patricia to her feet. She stumbled, her floral bathrobe trailing in the dirt, her curlers falling loose. She looked small now, ordinary, the kind of woman you'd pass on the street without a second glance. That's what made it so terrifying. Monsters didn't look like monsters. They looked like neighbors, like church deacons, like foster mothers who smiled when the cameras were watching. Marcus watched them load her into the federal vehicle. He felt nothing, no satisfaction, no relief, just a cold, heavy emptiness that settled in his chest like stone. 40-7 children. 7 years. God only knew how many dead, how many sold, how many broken beyond repair. Ghost. Tank's voice. You should see this. Marcus turned. Tank was standing in the doorway of the main house, his face ashen. What is it? Records. She kept records of everything. Marcus followed him inside. The living room looked normal. Doilies on the furniture. Family photos on the walls. A Bible on the coffee table open to Psalms. But the office behind the kitchen was something else entirely. File cabinets lined every wall. Hundreds of folders, each one labeled with a name, a date, a status, active, transferred, aged out, deceased. Marcus pulled one labeled transferred, and inside was a photograph of a boy, maybe 7 years old, smiling at the camera. Below it, handwritten notes. Subject shows strong compliance, good health, no family connections. Sold 6142019, $47,000. Beer anonymous. Marcus's hands shook. He pulled another folder. Transferred, a girl, 5 years old. Sold 322020, $52,000. Another. Transferred, twin boys, 8 years old. Sold together, $89,000. How many? Marcus's voice came out strangled. How many transferred files are there? Tank counted. His face grew grayer with each folder he touched. 37. In how many years? Files go back to 2017. 37 children sold like livestock, vanished into a world that Marcus didn't want to imagine. And Patricia Dawkins had kept records like she was running a business, because that's exactly what it was to her. The FBI needs to see this, Marcus said. All of it. Every file, every name, every beer. Ghost. Tank's voice was thick. These kids, if they were sold 7 years ago, some of them are teenagers now. Some of them might be. Don't. Marcus cut him off. Don't finish that sentence. We find them. Every single one. However long it takes. Whatever it costs. We find them. His phone buzzed. Prophet. Ghost. How's the situation? We got the girl. Maya. She's alive. Barely. Patricia's in custody. Good. What about the other properties? I'm sending teams now. But Prophet? Marcus paused, trying to find words for what he'd just seen. It's worse than trafficking. She kept records. Names, dates, buyers. 37 children sold over 7 years. This isn't just one woman. This is a network. Silence on the other end. How big? Don't know yet. But the files mention contacts in 3 other states, other foster homes, other operators. This goes deep. Then we dig deeper. I'm making calls. Every chapter we have, every contact in law enforcement we trust. We're going to rip this thing out by the roots. What about the kids? The ones here. Medical teams are en route. Eleanor's coordinating emergency placements for the ones who are stable. The ones who aren't, Prophet's voice hardened. They get the best care available. Whatever it takes. Club covers it. Marcus closed his eyes. And Ethan, he's safe. Sitting right next to me. Won't let go of that medal you gave him. A pause. He's asking about you. Asking if you're coming back. Tell him I'm coming back. Tell him I keep my promises. I will. The call ended. Marcus stood in that office, surrounded by folders full of children's faces, children's fates, children's price tags. He thought about Ethan clutching a dead boy's medal like a lifeline. He thought about Maya, curled in a corner, too broken to believe rescue was real. He thought about 37 children whose smiling photos were filed under transferred. He thought about his son, about the promise he'd made at the funeral, to protect kids who couldn't protect themselves, to be the person who noticed, who acted, who didn't look away. He'd looked away for too long. Everyone had, and children had paid the price. Never again, he said to the empty room. Never again, outside. The first ambulance arrived. Medics rushed past him, carrying stretchers, calling for updates on victim counts. More vehicles followed. FBI, Child Protective Services, the real ones from out of county, untainted by Patricia's corruption. News vans already gathering at the end of the driveway, held back by a line of motorcycles and everywhere. Men in leather vests standing guard, watching, waiting, making sure that no one interfered with what needed to happen. Marcus walked out to his bike. Tank fell into step beside him. Where to next? The second house. Sagebrush Trail. Prophet says, there's 23 kids there. You've been up for almost 30 hours, so have you. Tank nodded slowly. Then let's ride. They mounted their bikes. The engines roared to life, and Marcus led them into the darkness toward the next house, the next group of children, the next piece of this nightmare that needed to be dragged into the light. Behind them, Patricia Dawkins sat in the back of a federal vehicle, watching through the window as her empire crumbled. Her hands were cuffed. Her face was blank, but her eyes were burning with something that Marcus recognized. Not defeat calculation. She was already planning her defense. Already thinking about which strings to pull, which secrets to leverage, which children to blame for their own abuse. She thought this was a battle she could still win. She had no idea what she was up against. 189 men who had ridden through the night. An FBI agent who had waited 6 years for this moment. A 13-year-old boy with a recording that proved everything. A 9-year-old girl who had survived 4 days in hell. And a network of 47 children who were finally going to be heard. The truth was coming. And Patricia Dawkins was going to burn in it. At the second house. They found 23 more children. Same conditions, same starvation, same fear. A teenage girl named Sarah, 15 years old, who had been at Patricia's the longest 5 years. Since she was 10, you're too late, Sarah said when Marcus approached her. She was sitting on the porch steps, watching the chaos with dead eyes. Whatever you think you're going to fix, you're too late. We got Patricia. She's in custody. So what? There are others. There are always others. We're going to find them all. Sarah laughed. A bitter hollow sound. You don't understand. This isn't about one woman. This isn't about one county. This is everywhere. Every state. Every system. Kids like us. We're invisible. We're dollar signs. We're bodies to be used until we're used up. Marcus crouched down to her level. What do you know? I know she had meetings once a month. Other foster parents from other places. They'd sit in her living room and talk about inventory. That's what they called us, inventory. Sarah's voice cracked. I know she had a list. Names and addresses. I saw it once when I was cleaning her office. Where's the list now? She keeps it in a safe behind the painting of Jesus in her bedroom. Marcus stood up. Tank, get Torres now. 20 minutes later, they had the safe open. Inside were three things: cash, nearly $60,000 in bundled hundreds, a ledger handwritten, names, dates, amounts, a record of every transaction Patricia had ever made, and a list. 11 names, 11 addresses, 11 foster homes in 4 states: Wyoming, Montana, Idaho, and Colorado. 11 more Patricia Dawkinses, 11 more basements, 11 more networks of children being starved, beaten, and sold. Torres stared at the list with something like horror on her face. We're talking about hundreds of kids across 4 states. We'll need to coordinate with multiple field offices, multiple jurisdictions. This could take tonight, Marcus said. Torres looked at him. Excuse me, you said yourself, if we don't move fast, they run. They destroy evidence. They warn each other. The only reason Patricia didn't know we were coming is because we moved before she could react. We need to do the same thing with the others. I can't authorize simultaneous raids across 4 states on a few hours' notice. The paperwork alone. Then let us do it. Torres went very still. That's vigilantism. No, that's citizenship. Marcus stepped closer. You deputize us. Temporary emergency authorization. We hit all 11 locations simultaneously. We secure the children. We preserve the evidence. You follow behind us with the legal authority to arrest. That's not how. That's how it has to work, tonight, right now. Or kids die, while we're waiting for paperwork. Torres stared at him for a long moment. Then she pulled out her phone. Give me 30 minutes. I'll make calls. You have 20. Torres made the calls. Marcus made his own. Profit mobilized every chapter in 4 states. Would spread through networks that had been built over decades. Brothers woke brothers. Phones rang at midnight. At 1 a.m. At 2 a.m. The same message over and over. Children in danger. We ride tonight. By 3:47 a.m. They were ready. 189 motorcycles had become for 123. Split across 11 locations, 11 teams, 11 synchronized operations. The largest child rescue in the history of the Iron Wolves. Marcus stood in the parking lot of the Cedar Falls diner, looking at the men assembled before him. Fathers, grandfathers, brothers, sons, men who had dropped everything: jobs, family, sleep, because somewhere children were suffering. Listen up, he said, his voice carrying across the cold night air. In approximately 1 hour, we're going to execute simultaneous operations across 4 states. Each team has their target. Each team has their orders. Legal, clean, documented. No violence unless a child's life is in immediate danger. He paused. Some of you are going to see things tonight that will haunt you. Kids who've been broken in ways you can't imagine. Kids who don't remember what safety feels like. Kids who might not even want to be rescued, because they've been taught that rescue is just another trap. His voice hardened. Be patient with them. Be gentle. Be the first adults in their lives who don't hurt them. And when this is over, when every child is safe and every predator is in custody, we ride home and we did something that mattered. Something real. Something that will change lives. He looked at Prophet, at Tank, at the 400 faces watching him in the darkness. Any questions? Silence. Then let's ride. The engines roared and across 4 states. The night exploded into motion. The first location fell at 4:17 a.m. Marcus got the call while his team was still 20 minutes out from their targets in Montana. Tank held the phone to his ear while Marcus drove, the wind tearing past them at 80 mph. Colorado team secured 19 children. Tank shouted over the engine noise. 2 operators in custody. 1 tried to run, didn't get far. Injuries none on our side. Kids are, Tank's voice caught. Kids are bad, ghost, real bad. One of them is 4 years old, weighs 22 pounds. Marcus' grip tightened on the handlebars until his knuckles went white. Medical en route. Already there. FBI is taking over the scene. Good. Tell them to preserve everything. Every document, every photo. His phone buzzed again. A different number. Prophet. Tank switched calls, listened. His face went pale in the darkness. What? Marcus demanded. Idaho team hit a problem. The operator saw them coming. Barricaded herself inside with 6 kids. She's got a gun. Marcus felt ice flood his veins. Hostage situation. She's threatening to kill them all before she lets anyone take them. Says she'd rather they die free than live as witnesses. Free. She thinks killing children is setting them free. She's crazy. Ghost. They're all crazy. These people don't see kids as human beings. They see them as property. And she'd rather destroy her property than lose it. Marcus pulled off the highway. His team followed. Engines dying one by one. Where in Idaho? Twin Falls, rural property. Local FBI is setting up a perimeter, but they don't have a negotiator within 2 hours, and the kids are locked in a room with her. She's not letting anyone close. Marcus closed his eyes. 6 children, 1 woman with a gun, and nothing left to lose. 2 hours until professional help arrived. 2 hours that those kids might not have. I'm going. You're supposed to hit the Montana target. Send someone else to Montana. I'm going to Twin Falls. That's a 3-hour ride from your position. Then I'd better move fast. He didn't wait for a response. Just kicked his engine back to life and tore off into the darkness, leaving his team behind. Tank caught up to him 2 miles later, pulling alongside at dangerous speed. You can't do this alone. Tank shouted. I'm not asking you to come. I'm not asking permission. They rode in silence after that. 2 men racing through the night toward a situation that could end in blood. Marcus thought about Ethan, about the medal clutched in the boy's hand, about the promise he'd made. He thought about his son, about the moment he'd arrived at the hospital too late. Always too late. Not this time. He pushed the bike faster. They reached Twin Falls at 5:43 a.m. The property was surrounded. FBI vehicles, local police, a helicopter circling overhead, spotlight cutting through the pre-dawn darkness. And in the center of it all, a farmhouse with boarded windows and a woman inside who had decided that dead children were better than rescued ones. Marcus ditched his bike and walked toward the perimeter. An agent tried to stop him. Sir, this isn't active. I'm with Torres. Call her. The agent hesitated, made a call, listened. His expression shifted from suspicion to confusion, to something like respect. She says you're cleared. But she also says if you get anyone killed, she arrests you herself. Fair enough. Marcus moved through the perimeter until he found the incident commander. A tired-looking man in his 50s. FBI windbreaker. Radio in hand. You're the biker Torres mentioned. Yeah, good. Maybe you can talk some sense into this woman, because I'm out of ideas. What's the situation? Carol Pritchard, 57 years old, ran a foster operation here for 12 years. We estimate she's had over 80 children pass through. When my team approached, she grabbed 6 kids and locked herself in the back bedroom. She's got a shotgun, and what she claims is a dead man's switch connected to propane tanks. Is the switch real? We don't know. Could be a bluff. Could be real. If we breach and she's telling the truth, the whole house goes up. Has she made demands? Just one. She wants to talk to someone who understands. Understands what? Her words, not mine. She says the system is broken. She says we're all complicit. She says she saved those children from worse fates, and we're the real monsters for trying to take them back. Marcus felt his stomach turn. She actually believes that. These people always do. They've convinced themselves they're heroes. That's what makes them so dangerous. Let me talk to her. You no offense, but you're not a trained negotiator. No, but I've got something better. What's that? A 13-year-old boy who survived exactly what those kids are going through, and a recording of Patricia Dawkins that proves this woman isn't special. She's just another cog in a machine that sells children. Maybe if she hears that, she realizes her cause isn't worth dying for. The commander stared at him for a long moment. Then he handed over his radio. Channel 7. She's been monitoring our communications. Talk fast. We're running out of time. Marcus took the radio. Breath deep. Click the button. Carol, my name is Marcus. I'm not FBI. I'm not police. I'm just a guy who found a starving boy at a diner last night and decided to help him. Static. Then a voice, tight, controlled. The voice of someone holding themselves together by willpower alone. I know who you are. You're the one who took Patricia. You're the one destroying everything we built. I found children locked in basements, starving, beaten, sold. Is that what you built? We saved them. Do you know what happens to foster kids in the regular system? They get shuffled from home to home until they age out. They end up on the streets, on drugs, dead before they're 25. We gave them purpose. We gave them. You gave them to buyers for $50,000 each. Silence. I've heard the recordings. Carol. Patricia kept records. Names, dates, prices. 37 children sold like cattle. Is that salvation? Those children went to better homes. To people who wanted them. Who valued them. Valued them for what? The silence stretched longer this time. Carol, I've got 47 kids in my protection right now. Kids who told me about the paddle with holes drilled in it. Kids who told me about the basement. Kids who told me about friends who disappeared in the middle of the night and never came back. That's not rescue. That's trafficking. And deep down, you know it. You don't understand. Carol's voice was cracking now, fracturing at the edges. I was one of them 30 years ago. I was a foster kid too. I know what the system does. I know how it breaks you. I thought if I could just... You thought you could fix it by becoming part of it. You thought you could make it better. You thought if you controlled the process, you could choose where they went. I could make sure they were safe. You could sell them to the highest bidder and tell yourself it was mercy. Carol started crying. Marcus could hear it through the radio. Great heaving sobs that shook her voice into pieces. I didn't mean for it to go this far. It started small. One child, one beer who seemed legitimate. And then the money was so good. And Patricia said, Patricia used you just like she used everyone else. You were a cog in her machine, Carol, nothing more. And now you're sitting in a house full of children holding a gun, telling yourself that killing them is somehow noble. They'll testify. They'll tell everyone what I did. I'll spend the rest of my life in prison. Yes, you will. That's the consequence of what you chose. But those 6 kids in that room with you, they didn't choose any of this. They're not responsible for your crimes. And they don't deserve to die because you're scared of what comes next. I can't go to prison. I can't. You don't understand what they do to people like me in prison. You're right. I don't. But I know what happens to kids who watch adults give up. I know what it does to them. They spend the rest of their lives believing they weren't worth fighting for, worth living for. Marcus paused. My son died 8 years ago. I wasn't there. I was working. I was always working. And he died thinking his father chose his job over him. I've spent every day since then trying to make up for that. Trying to be there for kids who need someone to show up. Don't make those 6 children spend the rest of their lives knowing that the last thing the adult in charge of them did was give up. Silence stretched across the radio. 10 seconds, 20, 30. Then Carol's voice. Small now. Broken. I don't know how to come back from this. You walk out the front door. You put down the gun. You let those kids go. And then you tell Torres everything. Every name, every beer, every location. You become the person who helps us find the children who were sold. That doesn't erase what you did, but it might save some lives. And that's worth something. Will you be there when I come out? I'll be right here. Promise, I promise. The line went dead. Marcus held his breath. The commander held his breath. Everyone on that perimeter held their breath, watching the farmhouse door with weapons raised and hearts pounding. The door opened. 6 children came out first, one by one, blinking in the early morning light. A girl who couldn't have been more than 5. A boy, maybe 12, carrying a toddler. 3 others clustered together like a flock of terrified birds. Then Carol, hands empty, face streaked with tears, walking toward Marcus like she was sleepwalking. I'm sorry, she whispered as they cuffed her. I'm so sorry. Marcus didn't respond. couldn't respond because the 5-year-old girl had broken away from the group and thrown herself against his legs, clutching him with arms that were nothing but bone. "Are you going to take us somewhere safe?" she asked, looking up at him with eyes too big for her face. Miss Carroll said safe doesn't exist, but you're here. So maybe she was wrong. Marcus knelt down. He thought about Ethan, about Maya, about the 47 kids who were finally free. "Safe exists," he said. "I'm going to show you." The girl nodded. Then she did something that shattered him completely. She smiled. By 7:08 a.m. all 11 locations had been secured. The final count staggered everyone who heard it. 127 children rescued. 127 kids who had been starving, beaten, neglected. And some of them, the files suggested at least 43 had been sold to buyers, whose identities were still being traced. 14 adults arrested. 14 operators who had turned the foster care system to a personal profit machine. 4 deaths discovered. 4 children who hadn't survived what was done to them. Lucas, Kayla. 2 others whose names were still being matched to remains found buried behind Patricia's secondary property. And documents. So many documents. Financial records. Beer contacts. Communication logs, enough evidence to keep federal prosecutors busy for years. Torres called Marcus at 7:34 a.m. He was sitting on the curb outside the Twin Falls farmhouse watching EMTs load the rescued children into ambulances. "We got them all," she said. Her voice was thick with exhaustion and something else. Relief, maybe. Every single location, every single operator. "It's over." It's not over. It's just starting. Those 43 kids who were sold, we need to find them. We're working on it. The beer network it's bigger than we thought. International connections, shell companies. This goes deep. Marcus, how deep? Deep enough that I'm being told to hand the case off to a special task force. What does that mean? It means people above my pay grade are very interested in what we found tonight. It also means, she hesitated, it means you need to be careful. Some of the names in those files, they're not just criminals. They're connected. Politicians, business leaders, people with resources to make problems disappear. Are you saying someone might come after the witnesses, after the kids? I'm saying the next few weeks are going to be dangerous for everyone involved, including you. Marcus looked at the farmhouse, at the ambulances pulling away, at the men in leather vests who had ridden through the night to make this happen. "Let them come," he said. "We're not going anywhere. I'm serious, Marcus. These people, I heard you. And I'm telling you, those kids are under our protection now. All 127 of them. Anyone who wants to hurt them, silence them, make them disappear, they go through us first." Torres was quiet for a moment. Then, "You know, when I started this job, I thought motorcycle clubs were the problem. Drugs, violence, organized crime. Tonight showed me something different." "What's that?" "Sometimes the people the system calls criminals are the only ones willing to do what the system won't." "That's not a compliment. It wasn't meant to be. It's just the truth." Torres sighed. "Get some rest, Marcus. You've earned it. And tell Ethan I'd like to meet him when he's ready. I think he's the bravest person in this whole operation. I'll tell him." The call ended. Marcus sat on that curb for a long time, watching the sun rise over the mountains. He thought about the last 20 hours, about the boy who stole a burger, about the girl who tapped on walls in the darkness, about the woman who thought killing children was kindness. He thought about the 43 who were still missing, still out there, still waiting. And he made a promise to himself. This wasn't over. Not until every single one of them was found. His phone buzzed. "Prophet. Ghost. How are you holding up?" "I'll live. Good. Because I need you back in Cedar Falls. There's something you need to see." "What is it?" Ethan found something on that phone of his. A video Patricia recorded 3 months ago. "We thought the beer list was 11 names. We were wrong." Marcus' blood went cold. "How many?" 37 across 6 states. And Ghost, one of the names on that list, is a sitting United States senator. The line went dead. Marcus stared at his phone. Then he stood up, walked to his bike, and kicked the engine to life. The sun was rising, and the nightmare was just beginning. Marcus arrived in Cedar Falls at 11:47 a.m. He hadn't slept in 31 hours. His body screamed for rest, but his mind wouldn't stop racing. A United States senator connected to a child trafficking network. The implications were staggering. Prophet met him at the clubhouse door. The older man's face was grey with exhaustion, but his eyes burned with something fierce. "Where's Ethan?" "Inside with Elena. He's scared. Ghost. Really scared of what he found." Prophet handed Marcus a tablet. "Watch this. Then tell me how we're supposed to handle it." Marcus pressed play. The video was grainy, shot on a cheap phone, clearly recorded without the subject's knowledge. Patricia Dawkins sat at a dining room table across from a man in an expensive suit. His face was partially visible. Grey hair, distinguished features. The kind of face that appeared on campaign posters. "The Wyoming operation is clean," the man said. His voice was confident, authoritative, the voice of someone used to giving orders. "But I'm concerned about the Montana expansion. Too many children into shorter time draws attention. Senator, with respect, the demand is..." "I don't care about demand. I care about exposure. Do you understand what happens to me if this gets out? I've spent 23 years building my career. I chair the Committee on Health and Human Services. I oversee foster care legislation for half the country. If anyone connects me to this, no one will connect you. The buyers are anonymous. The transfers are untraceable. And the children," Patricia smiled, "the children don't talk. We make sure of that." "How?" "Fear, isolation, and when necessary," she paused, "permanent solutions." The senator nodded slowly, like they were discussing quarterly earnings instead of murdering witnesses. "What about the boy? The one who's been asking questions? Ethan Walker. Is that a problem?" Patricia laughed. "He's 13 and weighs 70 pounds. What's he going to do? Tell someone? No one believes foster kids. They're all liars, remember. That's what we taught them to say." The video ended. Marcus stood frozen, the tablet clutched in his hands. When was this recorded? 3 months ago. Ethan hid the phone in an air vent during one of Patricia's meetings. He didn't even know what he had until last night, when Circuit helped him go through all the files. "Does Torres know?" "Not yet. We wanted to talk to you first." "Why?" Prophet's jaw tightened. "Because that's Senator Richard Homan. He's not just any politician. He's the ranking member of the Senate committee that oversees FBI funding. Torres goes after him. Her entire agency gets gutted. Careers destroyed. Investigations shut down. He's untouchable. No one's untouchable. Prophet. No one." Marcus shoved the tablet back at Prophet. "Where's Ethan?" Ethan was sitting in the back room, Elena beside him, a blanket wrapped around his shoulders. Despite the warmth, he looked smaller than he had yesterday, more fragile, like the weight of what he'd discovered was physically crushing him. "Hey," Marcus said softly, pulling up a chair. Ethan didn't look up. "You saw the video?" "Yeah, I saw it. He's going to kill me." Ethan's voice was flat, emotionless, the voice of someone who had accepted their fate. "Senator Homan." He asked Patricia if I was a problem, and she said no because I'm just a kid. But I'm not just a kid anymore. I have the video. I have proof. He's not going to touch you. How can you promise that? He's a senator. He has power. He has money. He doesn't have us. Marcus leaned forward. "Ethan, look at me." The boy raised his eyes. They were red-rimmed, exhausted, terrified. "I told you I'd keep you safe. I meant it. That senator could have the entire United States military at his disposal, and I would still stand between you and him. Do you understand? Why do you care so much? I'm nobody. I'm just some foster kid who stole your burger. You're not nobody. You're the bravest person I've ever met. You survived 23 months of hell. You recorded evidence that's going to take down a criminal network spanning 6 states. You saved 127 children last night by having the courage to speak up." Marcus's voice cracked. "My son died when he was 12. I wasn't there. I couldn't protect him. But I can protect you. and I will for as long as I'm breathing." Ethan stared at him for a long moment. Then slowly he reached into his pocket and pulled out the St. Christopher medal. "You left this with me at the diner. You said you'd come back for it." "I did come back, I know." Ethan pressed the metal into Marcus's palm. "But I don't need it anymore. You already showed me what it means." Marcus's throat closed. He couldn't speak, could barely breathe. He just wrapped his hand around the metal and nodded. "What happens now?" Ethan asked. "Now we take down a senator." The next 72 hours were a masterclass in strategic warfare. Torres was initially skeptical. A sitting senator involved in child trafficking. It sounded like conspiracy theory nonsense. But the video was real. The evidence was documented. And when she ran Senator Homan's name against the beer records recovered from Patricia's safe, she found 3 transactions. 3 children purchased through shell companies connected to offshore accounts controlled by Homan's family trust. "This is career suicide," Torres said when Marcus showed her the connections. They were standing in the FBI field office, surrounded by boxes of evidence. "If I go after him and fail, I'm done. Not just my career, my entire team. Everyone who worked this case. And if you don't go after him, then a child trafficker sits in the United States Senate crafting legislation that affects millions of foster kids. That's not an option." "I know." Torres rubbed her temples. "I know, but you have to understand what we're up against. Homan has connections at every level. Justice Department, FBI leadership, even the White House. If he finds out we're coming, he'll bury this so deep it will never see daylight. Then we make sure he doesn't find out." "How?" Marcus smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. "We don't go through the system. We go around it." The plan came together in pieces. Circuit worked the digital angle. Hacking was off the table, nothing admissible in court, but public records were fair game. Campaign donations, travel itineraries, property purchases. He built a timeline of Homan's movements over 5 years, cross-referenced against dates when children had been transferred through Patricia's network. The correlations were damning. Every time a child disappeared, Homan had been within driving distance. Every transaction in his family trust coincided with a sale. Scholar Dr. Benjamin Torres, no relation to the FBI, and worked the legal strategy. Former prosecutor, knew how to build cases that juries couldn't ignore. He prepared briefings for 3 different media outlets, timed to drop simultaneously if anything happened to the investigation. The prophet reached out to contacts in law enforcement who owed favors, retired agents, local sheriffs who'd been frozen out by federal bureaucracy, men and women who cared more about justice than politics. And Marcus did what he did best. He protected Ethan. The boy was moved to a secure location, a ranch owned by a retired brother 40 miles from the nearest town. Elena and Danny came with him. So did Maya, the 9-year-old from the basement who had latched onto Ethan like he was her big brother. 2 armed guards at all times, security cameras, motion sensors. If anyone came looking, they'd know long before they arrived. But Ethan couldn't just hide. He was the key witness, the one who'd recorded the video, the one who'd survived Patricia's operation and could testify to what he'd seen. And Senator Homan knew it. The first sign of trouble came 4 days after the raids. A black SUV was spotted circling the Cedar Falls clubhouse. License plates traced to a private security firm based in Virginia, the same firm that provided personal protection for Senator Homan. "They're watching us," Tank reported, "probably trying to figure out where we move the kids." "Let them watch," Marcus said. "They won't find anything." But they kept looking. 2 days later, a man showed up at Eleanor's house asking questions. Said he was a journalist working on a story about the foster care rates. Eleanor didn't buy it. She called Marcus, described the man, and Circuit ran his photo through facial recognition. Former CIA, now private contractor specializing in asset recovery. They were hunting Ethan. "We need to move up the timeline," Prophet said at an emergency meeting. "If Homan is this desperate, it means he knows we're coming. We wait too long, he'll find another way to silence the evidence. The FBI needs another week to finalize charges. We don't have a week. Then we force his hand. Marcus stood up. We leak the video. The room went silent. Leak it. If we release that video before formal charges are filed, defense attorneys will argue tainted evidence. Homan could walk. Not if we leak it to the right people. Who? The media. But not just any media. International media. BBC, Reuters. Foreign outlets that don't answer to American political pressure. Once the video goes global, Homan can't bury it. He can't make it disappear. And the FBI will be forced to act publicly. That's a dangerous game. Everything about this is dangerous. But right now, there's a 13-year-old boy hiding in a bunker because a United States senator wants him dead. I'm not letting that kid live in fear one more day. The vote was unanimous. At 9 p.m. Eastern Time. The video hit the internet. Within an hour, it had been viewed 2 million times. Within 3 hours, major news networks were running breaking coverage. Within 6 hours, Senator Homan's office released a statement calling the video a sophisticated deepfake created by political enemies. By morning, the FBI announced an emergency investigation. By noon, Homan's house was surrounded by federal vehicles. By evening, he was in handcuffs. Marcus watched the arrest on television from the ranch where Ethan was hiding. The boy sat beside him, Elena on his other side. Maya curled up asleep in Eleanor's lap. That's him, Ethan whispered as they showed Homan being led to a waiting car. That's the man from the video. Yeah, that's him. Is it really over? Marcus looked at the boy, at his hollow cheeks and ancient eyes, at the metal hanging around his neck again. Marcus had given it back, told him to keep it for good. The arrest is over. The trial comes next. You might have to testify. I know. Are you ready for that? Ethan was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded. He bought children. He let Patricia hurt us. He sat in his fancy office and voted on laws about foster kids, while paying people to sell them. Ethan's jaw tightened. I'll tell everyone what I saw. I'll tell them as many times as they need to hear it. He doesn't get to walk away. Marcus felt something loosen in his chest. Pride maybe, or hope. The kind of hope he hadn't felt in 8 years. You know what you are, Ethan. What? A survivor. But more than that, a fighter. You fought back against people who had every advantage. You won. Ethan shook his head. I didn't win anything. I stole a burger, and that burger changed everything. Sometimes the smallest choices have the biggest consequences. You chose to speak. You chose to trust. You chose to fight even when you were starving and terrified. And everyone told you no one would believe you. Marcus put his hand on Ethan's shoulder. That's not just surviving. That's heroism. Ethan didn't respond. But for the first time since Marcus had met him, the boy smiled. A real smile, small and fragile, but genuine. The trial lasted 7 weeks. Senator Richard Homan was charged with 17 counts of child trafficking, -1 counts of conspiracy, 8 counts of obstruction of justice, and 3 counts of accessory to murder for the children who died under Patricia's care. Ethan testified on day 12. He walked into that courtroom weighing 93 pounds. He'd gained 22 pounds in 3 months of real food and sat across from the man who'd discussed his death like it was a business decision. The defense attorney tried to break him, called him unstable, called him a troubled foster kid with a history of lying, called him a tool of motorcycle gang criminals trying to frame an innocent public servant. Ethan didn't flinch. You recorded this video, the attorney demanded. Yes, without permission. Yes, because you were taught to spy, taught to manufacture evidence. No, because I was scared, because my friends were disappearing and nobody believed us when we said something was wrong, because I was 13 years old and I weighed 71 pounds and I thought I was going to die in that basement. Ethan's voice broke, but he kept going. I recorded it because I needed proof, because that's the only way anyone ever believes kids like me. We have to prove everything over and over, while adults get to lie, and nobody questions them. The courtroom was silent. And what do you hope to accomplish with this testimony? The attorney asked, sneering. Ethan looked directly at Holman. The senator wouldn't meet his eyes. I hope he goes to prison. I hope he never hurts another child. And I hope every kid in the system now sees this and knows that their voice matters. That even when nobody listens, they should keep talking, because eventually someone will. The jury deliberated for 6 hours, guilty on all counts. Holman was sentenced to 4 consecutive life terms without possibility of parole. When the verdict was announced, Marcus was standing in the back of the courtroom. Ethan turned around, found him in the crowd, and raised his fist in a silent gesture of triumph. Marcus raised his fist back. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Torres held a press conference announcing the continued investigation into the broader network. 37 locations across 6 states. Over 200 children recovered. 63 still missing and actively being traced. But the real moment happened away from the cameras. Elena found Marcus sitting alone on a bench away from the chaos. "You okay?" "Yeah, just processing. He did good in there, Ethan. He did better than good." He took down a senator. Elena sat beside him. "Danny and I have been talking about Ethan, about making it official." Marcus looked at her. "We want to adopt him permanently. If he'll have us." Marcus felt his throat tighten. "Have you asked him?" "Not yet. We wanted to wait until the trial was over. Didn't want to pressure him while he was dealing with all this." Elena paused. "But there's something else. Something we wanted to talk to you about first." "What?" "He asks about you every day. Wants to know when you're visiting, what you're doing, whether you're safe." Elena smiled softly. "He doesn't say it. But I think you're as important to him as we are. Maybe more." Marcus didn't know how to respond. "We were thinking," Elena continued, "that maybe you'd want to be part of this officially. Not replacing us, just being there the way you've been there all along." "You mean like a godfather, uncle, whatever you want to call it. Someone Ethan knows he can count on. Someone who showed him what it means to keep a promise." Marcus looked at the metal around his neck, his son's medal. The one he'd given to Ethan in a moment of desperate hope and received back as a symbol of trust. "Yeah," he said quietly. "I'd like that." "Good." Elena stood up. "Now come inside. There's a 13-year-old boy who's been waiting 3 months to properly celebrate. And he wants his whole family there.